was telling you more earlier that English was my worst subject in school. So when it comes to like reading and writing, or even pronunciation, as Umar knows, it's not really high up there.
I think the whole world knows that, not just me and you, mate. I think the whole world knows how bad you are at pronunciations.
Gives me great pleasure to welcome to the Sports Dentistry podcast this week, Camesia Matthews. I pronounced that right, Camesia, did I?
You did. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on. Umar says when he heard you're close to Boston, he's saying, as Scots, we love Boston. We need to get somebody on from Boston.
Yeah, we were hosting some of the World Cup games, so it was live around here.
So, Camesia, I've had the pleasure to get to know you a little bit over the last few years, particularly at the Academy for Sports Dentistry conferences. But for anybody that hasn't come across you or doesn't know you, can you give us a little bit of background to yourself, how you got into dentistry and how that led into sports dentistry?
Well, I was born in the beautiful island of Antigua. So I grew up in Antigua and always loved science and ended up working in a lab at first. And in undergrad, my professor said, "Oh, you should be a medical doctor." But I wasn't sure that I wanted to be a medical doctor at the time. I love using my hands. I love biological science, actually. So figured out that dentistry was for me. But I probably was way more into sports first before I was into dentistry. Just grew up in a house with a dad that loved sports and with one TV, so you couldn't watch anything else. It was cricket all the time, 24/7 if possible. And, you know, after a while, you just join the fight, if you will, just ask all the questions you need and learn along the way. And that's really my introduction to sports. But eventually I realized dentistry was for me. And, you know, best of both worlds merged at some point and realized that I could do both. And both love. So that's the quick background, if you will.
You're talking Umar's game there. Cricket. See this face light up when you heard that?
I was just going to say, I think John was just about to leave the conversation because I think he's had enough already. So we've only just started. So we all know John's affection and love for cricket. So I think that's just diving a little bit deeper into that. So Antigua, you obviously grew up there. Just give us a little bit of a background for people who haven't been to the Caribbean. I'm very lucky to have been to Barbados and had a very good time there. I just want to talk about your upbringing a little bit and what it's like to be in the Caribbean. Is it as laid back as what people make out to be?
It is laid back. You know, it's a good vibe. It's no worries, really. It's less stress compared to the US. So I never played cricket, of course, but my dad did and my brothers did. And my dad was a really good bowler, I was told. I didn't, see him. By the time I grew up, he wasn't playing anymore, but he was really into it. And so cricket is big in Antigua. Of course, the West Indies cricket team. And, we've had some of the best cricketers that's ever played. Viv Richards and Richie Richardson and, Curtly Ambrose. So we're really into that sport. Soccer is also big as well. But growing up in the Caribbean, was pretty good. A lot of interest in science for me, but sports was my dad's doing for me. I didn't have a choice, but now I don't regret it at all.
And when did the move come? Did you go to university in Antigua and then go to the States to work? How was that transition?
So I came to the U.S. in Maryland to go to undergrad. And like I said, I studied clinical laboratory science, and mostly after that was in microbiology. So that's where I cut my teeth in science, really. And understanding how that works with the body, all the different microbiome that we talk about now. I used to have to isolate those, figure out what drugs work with them, that type of thing, and how that's working in the body. So that gave me good insight as to how the body and the microbes work. So, but yeah, left Antigua and came to undergrad and stayed after that.
And did you do your dentistry then in University of Maryland? That's beside Washington, the city of
DC,
Washington, isn't
yes.
it? Yeah, DC. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did my dentistry. I went to Howard University College of Dentistry in Washington, D.C. Yes. Yeah. I also went to George Washington University. So the D.C., Maryland area was home.
Okay. Yeah.
Way before Massachusetts.
We had the ASD conference there last year, and it was a good time. It was warm. It was hot.
Yes. That was coming back home for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was in DC last year.
Then when did you do the transition up to Massachusetts?
So in 2017, my husband got a job at MIT Press, so the whole family moved from the DMV area to move to Massachusetts at that point.
To do dentistry there, do you have to do some sort of science-based undergrad first, and then you do dentistry as a postgrad? Is that how it works in the States, is it?
So it's not necessarily the degree, but the prerequisites. So I had people in my class that were business majors, but they had to do Chem 1, Chem 2, Physics 1, Physics 2. They had to do all the sciences that were the prerequisites for dental school. I just happened to love science already, so I'd already done most of those prerequisites that made it easy to transition into dentistry when I made that decision. But you don't necessarily have to have a science background.
Okay, so because obviously here we can go straight from school and go straight into dentistry and do as an undergrad we can do dentistry, but obviously in the States is slightly different then.
Slightly.
So just talk us through your journey of when you started your sports dentistry interest and how you kind of fell upon that.
So when I was in dental school, I was already thinking, how could I merge sports and dentistry? That's even before I knew there was an academy for sports dentistry. So by the time I graduated, I started to do some research and realized there's a whole academy. I have to join. And so by the time I made that decision, it was COVID. And so my first introduction to the ASD was the virtual symposium that they had during COVID. And so I learned, some people there. And then I got paired with Stephen Mills because he was the closest to me proximity wise. He's in Maine. And so I started to ask him questions and different things and how the academy works, how to get certified. And that was the intro. I literally went on a search to find where is dentistry and sports coming together, because I knew they had to, based on my own research and my love of science. So that's how I got started.
Was there anything in particular that led you to thinking that there must be something here? Or is it just similar? Like my path was dentistry's a wee bit boring and I really like sports. Is there a way I can combine the two? But was there something that you were seeing that were you seeing athletes or treating athletes, or was it maybe something that happened to you when you were doing exercise or taking part in sports, or was it just that you were like, I would love to bring these two things together?
So it's a combination of things. It's, like I said, I love biological science, and I knew there's certain things that affects the body in a certain way. And having worked in the microbiology field, in a hospital setting, knowing how important it is to have balance in your oral microbiome and how that can affect, I knew there had to be some intersection for an athlete. An athlete, everything affects everything, especially you need every little bit to get ahead. And so doing my research, inflammation, stuff like that, I realized there must be some intersection. So I wasn't thinking of it from just, how can I merge them? It was just me understanding certain things in science that led me to say, okay, there must be some correlation. And then, I found the academy that way.
How have you found implementing that then into your clinic life? How was that move from a dentist point of view? So you've moved complete states. Do you have to register with a different state board? How easy is it to move as a dentist around the US?
Yeah, you have to get licensed. If I want to practice in the state that I'm in, I have to take a licensing exam for that state. So after moving to Massachusetts, I got my dental license for the state of Massachusetts. Yes.
So you can't just transfer over the license that you had where in the state that you're working. You actually have to apply in that state itself.
Yep. Yeah, you have to get a license for each state that you plan to practice in.
But that must be quite tough then, because people who move for their spouse or their partner's jobs, then you're having to then go back and study again to then sit the exam, and nothing worse than thinking, God, am I going to pass or not, even if you've been practicing for many, many years.
Right. And each state has little different, what you call stipulations. Like I know if I move to Florida, it's like even more intense. This is what I'm told. I haven't had to do that, but I'm told
you're not old enough yet to move to Florida. You only meant to retire in Florida. Is that what they say?
There are a lot of young people in Florida practicing dentistry, but from what I've heard, their stipulation is even a little bit different to some of the other states. So each state has its own. Some are more rigorous than others, but yeah, you have to, if you plan to practice in that state, have a license for that state.
And then how have you found trying to implement sports dentistry into your clinic? How's your work at the moment? Are you an associate, or what's your sort of setup, or what's your working?
So I am an associate, and it's a little bit more difficult to implement, of course. So what I do, I work with individual athletes that come through. And for me, I see my role really as educational as well. So I've done some research with the local high school, like doing certain questionnaires for the athletes, just to kind of gauge their understanding of mouth guards and different things, which is very eye-opening. But that's how I'm going about it. I do plan very soon to have my own thing going on, and will be even more involved. But it's more on the individual basis and the educational basis. Part of the reason why I wrote the book, The Dental Fitness Advantage, because there's such a big gap in understanding for sports dentistry. You guys probably still go through it when you say sports dentistry. People are like, what's that? What do you guys do? So I feel like we have opportunity in sports dentistry to really educate the broader population.
Yeah, I was just going to touch on your book. So you've just launched a book, but you've spent some time on it, because I knew we've had a couple of conversations and you were like in the middle of it, and then you're getting it launched. Talk us through that, because that's quite a big undertaking. What was the motivation behind doing it, and what was like your sort of target audience? Is it for other dentists? Is it for your patients? Or is it just like a general thing to try to educate people? Give us a wee bit of an insight into that initial thought process of, it would be a good idea to write a book.
Yeah. So for me, being in dentistry, and as you know, we always talk about, hey, oral health is a part of, the greater health conversation. And usually I found when I had that conversation, most people were like, I didn't know that. Right. And I was like, we're in 2025 and 2026, and people still don't know some basic things. So I had the idea for the book probably for at least 3-4 years. Just I had an outline how I would want to communicate it. But then as I continued to practice, and, it didn't matter what the age group was or the socioeconomic status, there was still a gap in understanding. Anywhere from doctors to, some other person. No one knows what I'm talking about. So then I said, okay, that there's work to be done, really. And we have to do that work to be able to educate. So that's where that was born. Is I just felt like it's an easy way for me to say, hey, check out my book, and you'll get more information on what we just talked about. Because as it's set up, we don't get to spend that much time to go through details with our patients all the time. So I just wanted to have another resource. And the target audience for me, I wrote it in a way that the average person could pick it up and understand what was going on, understand the broader conversation about oral health and its connection to whole body health. And so I can give it to an athlete and they'll get something from it, and I could give it to my aunt and she can get something from it. So that's I wrote it that way for a reason, because it felt like the gap in understanding was so great that there must be ways for us to start having that conversation.
How did you find the publishing process? Have you written books before, or did you know how to go about it? Was that a steep learning curve as well?
Very, very steep. Very, very steep learning curve. This was my first book. I had an advantage in that I am married to an editor. So he understands. So he understood like some of the process. It was even daunting for him, the whole process as well. But it was very helpful to have his input on how I communicate my thoughts, things like that. But it was definitely a process. It's way, way more than I thought. I don't know what I was thinking, but there's so many steps to it. I thought writing it was going to be the hard thing. It turns out writing it is just the beginning. It was like, the editing, there's several different edits. I did some illustrations in there myself. And so getting that done and the layout, all of it is a unique process that you have to go through in a certain order. And that was, I learned a lot. Like, let's just say I had a steep learning curve, but it was a fun project.
You said it was a steep learning curve and it was a process to do it. I'm just thinking, if I was going to write a book, which I'm definitely not going to be doing, just so you know, how do you start? Do you just write things down and then little by little you then start to piece it to, okay, that's the start, that's the middle, that's the end? Or do you think, okay, well, I'm going to start the start and then I'll just take it from there? Just give us a little bit of a thought process behind it, because it's something very unique. None of our guests that I'm aware of, maybe Peter has written a book by themselves. So I think it's really interesting, because there might be people out there who want to write something. Maybe it doesn't need to be sports dentistry related. It could be something else.
Right.
But how would they kind of go about it? Just talk us through what was going through your head at that time.
Okay. So when I first got the idea, I was just thinking of dentistry almost like in a framework. So I was able to outline that part of it. I wanted to be able to communicate dentistry in a way that was reachable, because sometimes I feel like there's a disconnect because we throw so many things at our patients. It's just like, okay, I need this, I need a crown, and so the understanding of the whole thing feels off. But I started out with an outline for all the aspects of dentistry that I wanted to talk about. And then from that outline, that broader outline, I got the details kind of written into each topic. Like, for instance, like my book, I have it written, it's 5 pillars of dental fitness, if you will.
In sports dentistry, it's not just about treating injuries. It's about optimizing oral health for peak performance.
That's right, because when athletes push their limits, every detail matters, even their oral health.
That's why the Sports Dentistry podcast is being powered by Philips, true innovators in oral health technology.
Philips Sonicare toothbrushes use advanced sonic technology to disrupt plaque biofilm, removing up to 20 times more plaque than a manual brush.
And that's critical for athletes. With high carb diets, dry mouth, and frequent energy supplements, there are greater risk of caries and gum disease.
Philips backs evidence-based dentistry, giving us tools that fit perfectly into performance-driven treatment plans.
So whether you're helping your athletes recover, protect, or perform,
elevate your protocol with Philips.
So just give us a wee bit of insight on how you were able to put the book together.
Yeah, so from doing the outline that I just discussed, you write the details, you have it edited. Like, there's a rough draft, and then you have, I think it's like a major edit. Like, someone that knows nothing about what I'm talking about go through, and they kind of go through with details of, what needs to be clearer, or is copy editing as well, spelling and grammar and all of that. It's a whole process that I didn't anticipate or even think of. But it's all necessary because, what you put out, you want to make sure you catch as many errors as possible. And then I'm told that in the editing world, after all of those layers, you'll still miss something. There'll still be a word off, or a layout that's not quite perfect, even though you go through several iterations. But it's definitely a process.
Was there, and this is the first thing I look at whenever I have to do something like an article, was there a word count that you have to hit for it to be a book? Like, is there when you were saying, I'm going to write a book, when does it become a book? Like, is there a certain size that you need it to be? Is there, how did you work that out?
That's a great question.
Or did you just write everything that you wanted to do and it ended up to be enough for a book?
Yeah, I ended up writing what I wanted to write. But like I said, my husband has background in editing, so based on what I'd written, he said, okay, your book will be this size, and it will be about 200 words, which is great because it's easy to pick up. It's not something that's daunting and looks like a novel that would deter someone to pick it up.
200 pages?
Yeah, about roughly. And so he also said that there are books smaller than that, it depends on what type of book. So I don't know if it's just the words that determine if something could be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, do you remember you had to do certain? It just came to my head. I still think of this every time we talk about word counts. But do you remember you had to hit certain word counts when you had like projects in university and stuff, and you had to be certain words?
Yeah.
Well, the best I heard was my wee brother, who wrote a load of words but put them in white, so you couldn't see them.
Oh.
But then if you hit review word count, it would give you the amount of words. So he would write this project, it'd be nowhere near the word count. So then he'd just write a load of nonsense and then make it white so you couldn't actually see it in the screen. But then if you just hit like review, like the review word count, it came out with the amount of word count that he needed. It's like, how do people think of things like that?
I don't even know. That's the first I've heard that.
Did he get away with it?
He got away with it, yeah.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I'm sure that wouldn't happen now because everything's going to get put through AI or some sort of check thing.
Yeah,
so
everything will be picked up too easy now. Yeah. So then from the book, and you did a book launch. What was that experience like?
Ooh, it was stressful. It was very stressful, but it was fun. I did a book launch at one of our local bookstores, and was able to work with the bookstore, having a certain amount of copies, and inviting people to come and just talk about the book in general, what it's about, and answer questions. So that part was very, very good, very interactive. The leading up to it is making sure we're going to get the right amount of printed, all of that. That was very stressful, but again, steep learning curve. All of this is my first time. I've never done this before.
Yeah.
And even though my husband is in editing, there's certain parts of it that he was experiencing with me for the first time as well. So, but it was definitely a learning experience.
So what's the feedback been then since you've launched the book? Have you had quite positive feedback from your peers or from other healthcare professionals or just your average Joes? And what sort of things have people been saying to you about it?
I've had some really positive feedback. I actually met randomly a dentist on my way to the San Diego ASD. He was wearing a Huberman hat, and I said, "Oh, my husband likes Huberman." And he didn't know I was a dentist, and I didn't know he was a dentist in the beginning. And I said, my husband loves Huberman. And we got to talking and everything. And he's like, yeah, I'm a retired dentist and such and such. It's like, oh, I'm a dentist as well. And, we're getting ready to go on the plane and we're talking about different things. So I handed him the book. And he read the book while on the plane going, 5 hours to San Diego. And then he asked the person sitting next to me that he wanted to come sit next to me. And he was asking me all questions. He's like, oh, he gave me great feedback, which meant a lot coming from another dentist. He said the layout is really good, and how he started to ask some of the questions that you guys asked. How did I think about it, and why did I write it, and stuff like that. So and I've had a psychologist also read it, and she said what she loved about it. It wasn't daunting. She was able to go through it and understand what was going on, which was that made me happy, because that was the point for me, is to be able to communicate these things for people even outside of dentistry to understand and to help bridge that gap. So I've been happy with some of that feedback. So professionals, I've got some good feedback, and a few people from my church family gave me good feedback. So yeah, it's at least hitting in the way from that feedback the way I wanted it to hit.
And then what's the plan for the book? So you did the book launch. What's it like? Is it I've never really been in the books. I was telling you more earlier that English was my worst subject in school. So when it comes to like reading and writing or even pronunciation, as Umar knows, it's not really high up there.
I think the whole world knows that, not just me and you. Yeah, I think the whole world knows how bad you are at pronunciations.
So you did the book launch. What's that like? Do you read parts of the book? Is there people ask you questions? Or is it just like a celebration sort of evening?
I guess I could have said all of the above. I did speak about certain stories in the book from my own experience with different patients, and I was able to open it up for people to ask different questions about themselves, where they fall and that type of thing, because I do have a dental fitness score, if you will, for people to take, just to kind of see where they fall in each of the pillars and the areas that they may need to improve, that type of thing. So that part is a little bit more interactive. So during the launch, we did some of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you go into that a wee bit? That's quite interesting. Did you come up with this concept yourself? Is this just for someone that's reading the book? They can then give themselves a score. Like, is this a self thing they can do?
Yeah.
Do you want to give us a wee bit of information on that?
Yeah. So across the 5 pillars, prevention, posture, protection, presentation, and psychology, I have a dental fitness score, and you're able to take it, answer the questions, and it will give you like a little percentage of where you fall in all of those pillars. And so if you score really low on one, then you'll know, okay, this is one area that I can get a little bit better. And I came up with that because I feel like when people can give themselves an assessment, they're a little bit more apt to be engaged, instead of us telling them, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that all the time. And it's just one quick way to assess your own oral health and see where you are.
Yeah, I think it's really good to get interactive, because somebody like me that's not very good at English, because it reminds me of, I'm not sure if you've come across Patrick McKeown. He's big into nose breathing and taco breathing, and he brought out a book called The Oxygen Advantage, which is about nose breathing. But he's come up with something called a bolt score, so it's kind of to see how efficient you're breathing. So and it's something that you can do, and then you have different exercises you can do to try and improve that bolt score. It's almost, I think it is something about your breath. You breathe out, and then you count how long it is before you actually physically need to breathe, without like stopping yourself from breathing. Right. And it's just like your body's call for oxygen. So he's sort of talking about how efficient you are at breathing and how to use oxygen and stuff. So I thought that was really interesting. I've used that with different people and patients. So I really like that idea that you've made that sort of interactive aspect to your book for people reading it.
Yeah, yeah. And you'll give me that information for the person you just mentioned after. Yeah, no, it's. I've found that when you're able to assess and put, not only will you be able to assess, but you'll be able to see, hey, how did you improve? Because you can always take it again, or you can make a full assessment on a journey towards health or towards where you want to be. So yeah, always very helpful.
Just want to go back to something that you said earlier in the conversation because it's just ringing in my head at the minute. You said that you got involved with ASD and that was during COVID and you had the virtual ASD meeting and then you managed to get in touch with Steve Mills. How crucial, how important was that relationship that you struck up with Steve in terms of getting into sports dentistry and kind of finding your feet in that and for having a mentor like Steve to kind of help take you to the next level? Because that's something that we talk about quite a lot, is about having somebody that you can reach out to, somebody that you can speak to about it, and somebody that can, not take your hand as such, but certainly pave you the way. I've had people like that in my life who've done that for me. But how important was that relationship and that initial beginning for you, I suppose?
We are delighted to have Ionate as a sponsor for the Sports Dentistry podcast. Are you looking for a water bottle that's built to keep up with your active lifestyle? Look no further than Ionate, the totally leak-proof water bottles with triple lock technology to prevent spills no matter where you're headed. With a simple one-touch opening mechanism, you can sip on the go without hassle. Plus, Ionate's sleek modern designs are not only functional, but can be personalised just for you. Made from high-quality steel, these bottles are easy to clean and, best of all, they're sustainable. From 320ml to 1200ml, Ionate has the perfect size for you, whether you're just out for a jog or going on a long hike. And it doesn't stop at water bottles. Ionate also has travel mugs and flasks to keep your drinks just right wherever you are. Ionate have officially licensed water bottles for the NBA, NFL, MotoGP and British and Irish Lions, so you know you're getting the best. I have been using the bottles for a long time now and cannot recommend them highly enough, so head over to www.ionate.co.uk to get your hands on the best bottles in the business, bar none. Now back to the pod.
That was very important because before that, all I had was the theoretical knowledge of ASD just based on my own research. But to be able to have him kind of give the history of it, what's usually done, what he's done in his practice, talk about some of the other sports dentists and what they're doing, and then just giving me insight on, at the time, I think I was trying to find out how to become certified. And because we were remote, at the time we didn't have, it always has to be present at the symposium that you get certified. So he was, giving me insight on that. And I think we had 2020 and 2021 virtually. So I think 2022 was my first, I think we were in Portland. I could be wrong, but that was my first in person.
That was my first one too, yeah.
Yeah, that was my first in-person ASD symposium. But before that, Steve was definitely instrumental in kind of giving me like feedback and, just giving me the interest of the ASD and everything, how it works and all the projects that other people were working on.
Yeah, Steve's a great guy, isn't he? I remember we knew him briefly before Portland, but we've said this a number of times, and we had John on recently, who's now the president of ASD. It's such a welcoming group of people, isn't it?
Amazing. I mean, it's my favorite group because I feel like everyone at ASD has the same love of sports that I have, and it's like a family, really. It's the easiest for me conference or symposium in comparison to all the other conferences, and it's smaller, which I love. So it's like you have access to everyone if you wanted to, and everyone is so welcoming, like you just said, and open to your questions and your ideas. So absolutely, my favorite. I have no qualms saying that.
You're gonna have to try to get one up in Boston.
That would be great. That would be great.
I think if we have one in Boston, you'd have most of the Scottish dentists be there as well. So dentists and therapists and hygienists, because I hear they want to try and do something every year in Boston with Scottish fans and Scottish football or Scottish sport, I think. So I have some friends who were there and they raved about it and said it was absolutely incredible. They said they couldn't get into anywhere. It was all just absolutely heaving with Scottish kilts and people singing songs and the locals getting involved, and it was all very, very nice. So I think that's definitely something that I think going to Boston just to go and see what was going on at the time, and then look back, because I said to John when Scotland's first game, I was looking at flights, I was like, could I get away with just going for the weekend and just getting there for the game and getting back? I'd probably come back to a divorced household, but if that did happen.
We don't want that.
No, nobody wants that. But I echo your point about it being a very welcoming and very family friendly, and we've been lucky enough to have several UK Sports Dentistry Association conferences. We've got one coming up this week, and then we've been to South Africa, and we've got other ones setting up as well. And it's just the welcoming feel that you get from other sports dentists from all over the world, and kind of share the same experiences. And I do think when we do speak to people who aren't involved and they say, what is sports dentistry? It's something that it's just such a common question everybody asks, what do you mean I can do sports and dentistry? How can I get involved with that? And then they light up and they see that passion that we have talking about it. And it's somebody like yourself with your background, and you brought up into sport, and I think a lot of people are the same in their households. They've got sport on the TV, or their family or their parents or their siblings are playing sport, and it's something that they want to get involved in. Or, like myself, a field athlete, and John, definitely a field athlete, to try and do something that we kind of do more with our careers. So kind of going forward for yourself, what does your career in sports dentistry look like? You've obviously got this book out, you're obviously heavily involved with the ASD. What does the next few years look to you?
So the next few years for me is being more involved in community team aspects. I would say high school, elementary school. Also, this is a passion of mine, and it's like going to be an extension of the book, because using my pillars to be able to help people level up, if you will, the oral health at home. I feel like that's a gap as well. Sometimes we'll have the same patients coming in over and over with the same issues. I don't want to fix one filling and then you come the next time and then we have fillings all on the other side. I feel like we should be able to support more our athletes or patients outside of the office. So that's my layered passion, if you will, is to be able to help you find a routine. Just like you go into the gym, you say you go you have a certain routine, to make sure the routines at home are set up for you to be successful and have good oral health.
And how do you think that's achievable? Is that achievable is it just that people are not aware of their bad habits when it comes to oral health? Is that what you think it is? Is it really looking at doing an awareness campaign and an educational campaign that's needed?
Yeah, I do. There's some people that don't realize some of their habits is what's sabotaging their oral health. There's some people that don't realize, especially if you're an athlete, like, your occlusion is a problem, and not a problem, but can be affecting other things, and what to do about it. A lot of things that we take for granted, like I said, I realize people just don't know. And so if you're a snacker throughout the day or something like that, and you don't realize, why do I keep getting cavities? I brush and I floss, which I believe them, because there are times you go and you're not seeing a lot of plaque, but you're seeing some other things. So that means there's something sabotaging what's happening, and you're not aware of it. So I feel there's situations where we can be more helpful in those areas when they leave the office, especially if it keeps recurring. Whenever I have a patient that I keep seeing the same things over and over, I'm like, okay, we need to pause and pretty much take inventory, right? Because if you're saying you're brushing, or if you're saying you're doing these things, why do we keep ending up in this situation? It's usually something that they're not accounting for, if you will. So that's one area that I would love to be able to support people at home, to keep them, help them to be able to maintain.
And then the big challenge is, how do you get them to change their habits?
Well,
That's a
and
challenge
really,
for everyone.
and that is the challenge. That is actually what is going to have to be, because if you're so used to doing whatever it is, and now you realize, oh wow, that's the issue, then now we have to be interested in habit change, or be able to develop skills to help with habit change. So you're 100% correct.
Yeah, because I say to patients and athletes that we're getting a snapshot of when you're coming into the chair, whether that's once, twice, 3, 4 times a year, whatever it is. We're not actually seeing what you're doing at home on a daily basis, and it's the accumulation of all that rather than it being, my dentist or my hygienist told me off for not brushing or flossing, but actually you can lead a duck to water, but you can't actually tell what to do, and I think that's where I have learned recently, certainly in the recent past, that is we can do what we can within our limits, but it's very difficult to then have to follow it up, because you can't go and hold their hand, and you can't go and physically be there when they're eating certain foods or drinks, or when they're where they are brushing their teeth or where they're not brushing their teeth, and we only live once. You need to enjoy yourself. Everything within reasonable limit is absolutely fine. But you only get one set of teeth, and if you do want to get a second set of teeth, it's going to cost you a lot of money. So
right, because then that's the first thing. Dentistry is so expensive, and you hear this all the time. It's like when you're trying to explain certain things, like you said, you can only give the information, but you can't hold someone's hand. Some people are interested in getting help, and maybe I'm referring to those people where they're they have the motivation, if you will, like to ask the questions like, why is this happening? What should I change? I feel like we have opportunities to really help those patients. You're right. Some patients, no matter what you say, they're gonna, black coffee, they're gonna stain. I don't care. I'll have to do something else. I'll come in extra. There's certain things you're just not gonna change, but there's some people that are motivated to do a little bit more, or to be a little bit more optimal with their habits, and I think we have opportunity to help those people.
It's got to come from within. So when I tell John to be nice to me, I say you need to actually mean it. You actually mean it. Taking these daggers up my back every single day. There's always a new dagger getting put in. And they come out at a slow rate, but they're going in even faster every day. So it's really difficult. So
one of the reasons is Zumo's got his feet up this week, and myself and Imogen, who works with us, we're sitting in the background doing all the work for the conference on Friday, and Zumo's like, well, why are you so stressed? It's like,
I've just come back from holiday. I've just come back from holiday. I'm just trying to get back in the swing of thing at work, and I just constantly just getting barraged by these messages. But anyway, it's all good. It's all good. No, I think you're completely right. I think it's the people who want to change, and they're the ones who will certainly listen, and they'll take heed of it, and they will then. Word of mouth is so strong, and it's such a positive thing where people can then feel, well, actually my friends or my family came to see you. And I think that's where sports dentistry comes into it as well. You talked about getting into the community, and going to look after them, and looking after the athletes, and looking after the children and then their parents, and then it builds. Also, I think people need to understand that sports dentistry is actually a good practice builder as well. Certainly if you can get involved with your local teams, it does build that brand, it does build that relationship and that rapport. So people who may be business minded and who want to do more clinical dentistry, and they want to have their books full, and they want to do more of that stuff, yes, you can still spend that bit of time going out to the community, because actually it will pay back tenfold with the right sort of frame of mind in terms of why you're trying to do it, doing it for the right reasons rather than doing it for other reasons. And I think that's we've had that on the podcast before, where people have said that the most important thing they see going forward is actually reaching out to the local community to get involved, and that's where their sports dentistry kind of starts. It's very difficult to get involved and go straight to the top and be the dentist for the Antigua cricket team or for the American NBA team or something like that. You need to really start locally, and that's where mentors and being a mentor is important. Like Steve was to you, and Fiona's to me, and Peter was to John, for example. So for somebody listening to this, and
it's just clear from that he doesn't have a clue who the teams are in Boston. He doesn't realise it's the Boston Celtics and it's the Patriots.
Of course.
And it's the Red Sox. You know,
it would be too easy to talk about Boston, but I can talk about where Camesia's actually from. You know, from Antigua, from our motherland. So I'm trying to bring it back to the Caribbean. I'm trying to bring it back to the Caribbean. You know, we need to make sure we get our Caribbean friends involved a bit more as well. So it's a wider audience, not just about Boston. We've talked about Boston already. So.
Yeah. I mean, and the community is one thing, but I feel like we really need to start partnership with a lot of other professionals. I think that's going to also take us a long way. It will take sports dentistry a long way because they're professionals that don't understand it either. And I think once they understand the role that we could play, that we will really be able to develop some strong partnerships with other professionals.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think we've spoken about it numerous times in the podcast how important that link is with the sports medicine doctor and that link. And I think a lot of it as well, maybe slightly different in the US where the athletic trainers seem to hold a lot of power as well and things like that. So it's looking to work with these people that do a lot of work with athletes to get them to appreciate sports dentistry and the positive impact they can have to get a little bit more involvement. Whether that's sending the athletes to the clinic or getting a sports dentist involved or even just an awareness piece, an educational piece, or just giving an athlete a book each, you know, buy wholesale boxes of your books and just give one to each athlete.
Absolutely. Anytime. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What about so how are you seeing the future? You're going to get more involved in the community. Are you going to continue down the writing game to help with the awareness and education part? Are you already thinking about a second book, or are you thinking about different ways you can get that message across?
Yeah. Pretty much all of the above. There are different things that I want to do from the book. Programs, like, educational stuff that's easy for people to get to. But I am already thinking of what else I'm going to spin from this book in terms of continuation, in terms of detail. And for each topic, for each pillar, that type of thing. It's like opening Pandora's box now, really. So the outline is already coming for the next one because it's so much. There's so much that we can discuss and talk about in each pillar. So yeah.
And how you don't have to go into detail here, but how do you justify that time and effort to put it in the book compared to your working time? I presume it actually cost you money to launch this book. Not only your time and your effort, and even though your husband helped out with the editing, you talked about all these other different layers. I'm sure there was that, and then the publishing company, maybe there's a charge for that and to get it launched. Like, did it self-sustain itself, or is this like part of a bigger picture and you've been able to justify putting all that time and effort and cost into it?
So that's a good question. In terms of time, if you have something that's like in your head, like for me, I have time allotted for different things. Like, of course, I'm working with patients during the day, but then in the evening, whatever is like in your heart to do, you'll find the time to do it, really. So the time that I was really focused, because I was really focused for about a 6-month period of getting it done. Before that, it was just ideas, and I, like I said, write down outlines, that type of thing. But actually putting in the time, it's like anything else. I say I'm going to spend this amount of time each night on continuing it, and less, social media, or less TV or whatever. You'll find the time, especially if it means something to you. But yes, there is some input in terms of financial for the launch of the book, and I was able to do it because it's really self-published. So going through a publisher, like a big publisher, of course, it would be even more. But there's so much out there that can support you now, where you're not like spending way so much money as you would in the past. So that made it easier. Of course, like I said, having someone with the knowledge of the industry helped save money as well, and some of his contacts. So that's the way I was able to curtail some of the costs. But in terms of the time is just like something that you feel passionate about, and you do, and it's like you're not even thinking of it as taking away from anything else, really.
And then what about distribution? How do you do that? Like, I presume your book's available to buy. Do you have, is it available in your local shop? Do you get it on Amazon? How was that a challenge to look at that side of things?
It would have been a challenge for me if I was doing it on my own. But yes, it is available on Amazon. I do have a website where you can also order it. There is some in my local bookstore as well. So those would be the three avenues. In terms of getting it on Amazon, there's a process to do that, and we're just able to follow the process and get the files uploaded, and it's available as an ebook as well as print. We're working on the audio version. That should be coming in a few months. But after there's certain systems, like, so Amazon has its own way of you uploading the book, and then, like I said, we have our own system that we're using to be able to, if you wanted to buy it straight from the website as well. So several ways to get to it.
So I'm just curious about this. So if someone was to buy it on the website, does that go to you and then you get a book that you have in the house and post it? Or is there like a distribution center somewhere?
There's a distribution center. Yes. Yeah. That's a great question. That is a great question. Yeah. So I have copies, because I always have copies, because I never know, if I have a conversation and someone's interested, I have copies on me all the time in the car, that type of thing. But once you're ordering it online, it comes from distribution. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're not going home after clinic every night and mailboxing.
No. That would require time.
Well, we know John loves to spend his time wisely because he travels 2 hours to work and then 2 hours back every single day. So 4 hours every single day he's on the road. So he loves spending time doing nothing, really. So if you like to give him more work, then please.
Some squeeze to the train. Probably a bit of that. But yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, it's a good journey on. And I was just going to bring that up about the digital aspect, because we live in a digital world now. We're recording this podcast from Ireland, Scotland, Boston. Like, how do you find written copies of book? Obviously, maybe the likes of people like ourselves that would have used a lot of writing and books and stuff going through university. We're kind of still used to books, but I'm just thinking about this new generation that everything's on their phones, or everything's on their iPads, or everything, like everything's digital now. Yes. How would you think about getting your message across then in that digital world?
Absolutely. So this is the plan. I don't know when I'll get to it. And I saw someone else do this, is just having a video that talks about the book, each chapter, like a breakdown of the highlights. And for the same reason that you just mentioned, people are into anything digital is easy. They could say, okay, what is that about? And they'll be able to know, okay, this is what this chapter is about. And I'll give the highlights of the chapter, the takeaways, stuff like that. for each chapter. That I haven't done yet, but that's in the works as well. So for that reason,
Yeah.
Well, we live in a digital world, and we've talked
Yeah.
about digital dentistry quite a lot, and digital audiobooks and, digital recording. It's just the way it's all going, isn't it, really? So we need to stay up
Absolutely.
with the times or you get left behind.
Exactly.
So,
Just the way AI is developing, it's so, like, I don't know, it's scary how
Rapid
quickly
pace.
AI is. I'm starting to try to dip into AI, and I'm just like, can't believe how much they're able to do it. The other day, I was able to experiment with Cloud or Claude, and I was able to put a couple of documents into Claude, and they were able to like go through all the documents and give me a spit out, and I was like, Jesus, this is
Exactly.
this is way over.
It's
so advanced.
amazing. I could put my
Yeah.
book there and say, create this for high school students that I'm about to talk to, so I could give them a handout. It's amazing.
Yes.
It will come up with like really good information that's easy for them to use. So you're right, and you have to use it like you said, or you get left behind. You have to.
We're still too young to get left. Like I was at a wedding last week. I was having a conversation, and I was like looking at an 80-year-old in the corner enjoying himself, and I was like, if I was that age, I wouldn't care about AI. But like, if you don't start learning AI now, in 5-10 years time, you're going to be so far behind if you don't.
So far.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
I know. Like, we're lucky. We're in a profession where we're very much hands-on, and AI is not going to replace us. It's going to make a lot of the systems that we maybe use in clinic a lot more efficient.
Yep.
But still, it's just the way it's developing and the stuff that it's doing. Like you kind of need to keep up with what's going on, don't you?
And I'm trying my best to keep up with it. Of course, I have a 20-year-old, so they keep me up to date too. She keeps me up to date. She's in college and she's worried about AI actually a little bit because, some of them are in college and they feel like by the time they graduate, some of what they're learning is going to be obsolete. And I truly believe that because the changes that happen every few months, you're blown away by it. But we all have to keep up, otherwise we will get left behind.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a patient a few weeks ago, and he works for a newspaper in Ireland, and he was saying their workforce, their editing workforce, is now like their sub-editors and a lot of the ones that do that first stage is down to 25% of what it used to be because they're using AI.
Absolutely.
And the ones that are going to suffer the most, he feels, are the newly grads, the ones that would have done them jobs to get the experience. There's going to be way less jobs for them coming out of university.
That is the topic, and that's what and I hear the concern of like my daughter and those her age in college. That's the pressure they feel. They're like, we're paying all this money to be in school, and we feel like we're going to be obsolete by the time we graduate because of AI. And I'm sure there are ways around that. They have to double down on it because if you have the skill, you'll probably be more useful than if you don't have the skill. Yeah. So you just have to reinvent yourself and figure out ways to stand out with the skills.
And then when robots start doing teeth, they keep on getting them videos as well. Robots cutting veneers and stuff. That was the latest one I seen.
I've been seeing that, and I don't know what to even think. I'm wondering if the population, how soon they would be okay with a robot doing that. But we've seen it all. The things we're doing now we didn't even think would be possible. So I guess anything's possible.
I think the only thing with robots doing our job is that it's the critical thinking on the spot when you're trying to, you're throwing a curveball and you're thinking, okay, I need to fix this, or how am I going to get around this? It's just that critical thinking about it. Like you say, AI just moves so fast. It will have the ability, and hopefully when I'm 80, that'll be well and truly out of my grasp. And clinical dentistry will be long up my memory by then. So yeah. It's exciting and scary at the same time, but
there's so many positives, like you just mentioned. You're able to put documents in and be able to do different things, but there's so much more it's going to do.
Camesia, it's been great. Thanks so much for coming on and giving us the last hour to have a good chat. It's really interesting. Spoke a lot about your book, but I think that was one of the reasons I was looking to get you on, because I've seen you've done a lot of work in the background and seen your labs and stuff. And it's like, I really want to get on Camesia on and have a conversation. And I really like that interactive part that you've developed in the book. I think that's a really good golden nugget, and developing on that be fantastic. So we're hoping to get out to North Carolina next year. So I missed you in San Diego. Didn't get out this year, but
yeah, I missed you this year.
So we're hoping to get out to North Carolina next year.
Awesome.
I'm sure if John was there, everybody else would have missed him anyway, because he wouldn't have been there. So he would have been in San Diego, but he wouldn't have been at San Diego. So yeah, you wouldn't have been the only one. You wouldn't have been the only one.
No, I usually at least get a few conversations in with him, but I didn't get to this year. So awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thanks very much for your time, Camesia. I really appreciate it.
It's been great having you.
Thank you guys so much.
Always
I
good to
appreciate
catch
it.
up.
Always.
Chat to
Thank
you
you.
soon.
Have a good one.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.